Houston wants to let me.
I talk a lot about Jesus' love. Yeah, that's it. About Jesus' love and compassion and grace. About his power and his holiness. I don't talk to you very often about his courage. And there was a perception around that in his compassion and his love and his grace, that he was a pacifist. He was anything but. If you read the Gospels and the exchanges between Jesus and the leaders of the Jewish church, it was a pacifist. He was a peacemaker, not a peace lover. Definition of a peace lover is somebody that will avoid conflict of any kind at all costs. Peacemakers are people that will confront evil in order to bring peace. Let me kind of give you the backstory, and I know this is an old story. We do once a year of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem. First of all, you've got Pilate, who was the representative of the Roman Empire, and Pilate's ticked. Pilate's ticked, first of all, because Pilate despises Jews. The term that we use is anti-Semitic. And Pilate is more anti-Semitic than anybody. Pilate's been called on the carpet before Caesar for just outrageous, horrible treatment of the Jews. So he's got to leave his palace over on the coast, on the Mediterranean, and come to Jerusalem, because that's a requirement. Anytime the Jews are getting together for a big festival, and Passover is one of the biggest, then Pilate's got to leave and go to Jerusalem and take part of the army with him, and I would imagine his undercover people as well, because he doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust them. So he's irritated, and he's got to be there, and he's looking for an excuse to have a problem. Jesus is coming into Jerusalem, and people are putting down palm branches and their garments, and they're shouting, Hosanna, and Son of David, King of Kings. Son of David, unlike Son of Man or Son of God, that's a political chant. Son of David is one who's coming to conquer. Then you've got the high priest and his people, who, as we know, have decided that Jesus has gone from being an oddity to an irritant to a problem, and now he's a crisis. And so they've decided that they're going to kill him. They've just got to figure out a way to do it that doesn't start a riot, so the Romans won't have an excuse to come in and take over. The people who believe that he's the Messiah are there to celebrate. The problem is they're looking for a warrior Messiah. They want General Patton. They don't want a carpenter talking about love and forgiveness and turn the other cheek and forgive 70 times 7. They want Jesus coming into Jerusalem on the most beautiful Arabian stallion that anybody's ever seen. Because that means I'm coming to conquer you militarily. Again, go back to World War II, General Patton comes in to a town on a tank. or an armored personnel carrier. That's a whole different message than coming in on a bicycle. So you've got, and Pilate really doesn't care who Jesus claims to be, because it's a Jewish thing. And Pilate in particular, as a Roman, wants nothing to do with Jewish things. The Sanhedrin understand what he's saying, and they want him dead. And the people want him to be that warrior Messiah that they prayed about and sung about and waited all these years for. Takes a lot of guts to walk into that environment on the back of a donkey's colt. Jesus was called Rabboni, which means rabbi, teacher. When the rabbis were trying to get a point across to students, and they didn't feel that the students were getting it just by words, they would have some kind of dramatic visual, a visual aid kind of thing, sort of what I do with the kids. You know, that's why I have you buy them things for me to hand out to them and explain how that helps them to remember whatever it was I was, trying to get across to them, like the chickens today that Myrna did, to give them something visual. And this is where Jesus is with the people. There can't be anything more visual that says, I'm coming in peace and I'm coming in love, and you don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not coming in on the stallion. I'm not coming in with a military band. I'm not coming in with the 82nd Airborne or the Navy SEALs behind me. I'm coming in with 4 carpenters or 4 fishermen, a tax collector, and several others. That takes tremendous courage to do that. He knew what he was facing. He knew. Thomas said to the others before they got anywhere near Jerusalem, when they went to Bethany. And he raised Lazarus from the dead. That was sort of the last straw for the leadership. Because then even the Pharisees began to believe. And they had decided, which is just pathetic, that not only were they going to have to get rid of Jesus, but they were going to have to get rid of Lazarus also. And poor old Lazarus was dead for 4 days. And Jesus brought him back to life, and now they want to take him out again. And we don't know what happened to Lazarus, other than we know that he's not here now. So all this is going on in the midst of the biggest of the Jewish festivals. It's all going on in the middle of Passover. And Jesus boldly goes into Jerusalem. I had you read it out loud, and I'll read it to you again. Chapter 21 of the Gospel of Matthew, beginning with the first verse. As Jesus and his disciples approached Jerusalem and were near the town of Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 of them into the village ahead. As you enter, he said, you will see a donkey tied there with its colt beside it. Untie them and bring them here. If anyone asks you what you're doing, just say the master needs them, and there will be no trouble. Jesus had been in and out of Jerusalem for years. And what was going to happen this time was he wasn't caught in the middle of some intrigue between Pilate and the Sanhedrin and the people. He knew exactly what was going to happen and had planned for it. I mean, just a little common sense here. You've got your car parked in the driveway, and 2 dudes come up and decide to take it down the street. You just going to let them do that? Of course course you're not. Nobody's going to do that. That was a code phrase. Jesus knew exactly where the donkey was going to be and who the owner was. And when someone asked, what are you doing with that guy's donkey? They were to say, the master needs him. And we'll return him. And the guy knew it was for Jesus. And it was okay. I mean, there's logic here, people. It isn't just, it's not a fairy tale. The master needs them and there will be no trouble. This was done to fulfill the ancient prophecy. Tell Jerusalem her king is coming to her, riding humbly on the donkey's colt. See, for the Jews, what's going on here is the fulfillment of prophecy. They've been praying for this and singing for this and lighting candles for this. God's promised you a Messiah. You're going to have a Messiah. May not be this Messiah you're expecting or the Messiah that you want, but it's the Messiah that you need. The prophecy let Israel know that they don't need to fear their king. He's coming humbly on the donkey's colt. Pilate could care less. Pilate could care less. I mean, he represents Rome. He represents Rome, the super